Hey guys, JK here. We recently found out that the Nier banner is indeed coming this week, so pretty crazy stuff. I wanted to hurry up and get this out of the way because I don't know if I'm going to be able to make a video tomorrow or Thursday. But basically, we know that we're going to get two global exclusive units, which I will not be reviewing today because we don't really know much about them. But I will go over the units that we do know. So first off, we have the base 3-star that goes to 5-star. This is a 21-0. And there's not much to say with max 5-star units, but this one actually does have some uses if you can keep her alive. It is a she, right? Yeah. So the gear selection is okay, not that great. Again, I don't really think that people are going to be using her in real fights, but there are some uses, as I said. First of all, there are some decent heals here. This middle one, which is like a 30% chance, it's almost like a Kiraja. This one's way stronger, so, if you need some kind of support unit that can double as a healer or backup healer, that's an option right there. Although half the time you're going to be getting a Cura level, which kind of sucks. Data analysis is interesting because it's like analysis, I forgot what the actual other skill was called, but it's basically viewing info on the enemy, but it also decreases their resistance to elements by 30%. So that's a nice little perk to have on there if you want to look up what a boss's weaknesses may be, but then you're also reducing the resistance as you do it. Here we have just your typical cheer, overall support, they're calling it. Here we have a nice one person buff. You can maybe do this on your tank. That would be kind of nice. One person buff for attack and magic, and again, that would be nice for like your, your main attacker, finisher, whatever. And then we also have a skill that negates physical damage for one hit, basically for 3 turns, and it does a little bit of damage as well. Again, there's really nothing to note here other than there's some good buffs, and then there's that decreasing resistance and backup healing. So overall, kind of a mediocre unit, but has some uses, which is more than you can say for a lot of 5-star units. And then some passives here just to increase her survivability. Here we have a decent multiplier, but you're not going to get much damage out of it anyway because she has no attack passives. But you can do some status ailments, so that's 21-0 in a nutshell. Now, the unit that I'm most looking forward to is 9S. Biggest reason for that, obviously, many people have heard already, is his amazing Trust Master reward. So it's an accessory that gives you some defensive stats, but it also gives you a bunch of awesome abilities. So the first one is a nice strong heal or regen over 3 turns. That is a really nice regen. That's basically like Kiraja level per turn for 3 turns, and you're not, you'll use it once and then you just basically can do other things on the other turns, but you're still passively getting all that healing, which is great. Scanner boosts the rate of items dropped by enemies. I still don't quite understand how that works. Still really care too much about that. P-Shield is a really great skill. Physical damage mitigation 40% for 2 turns to all allies. So we have like overall damage mitigation skills that are like 20% or whatever, but this is a really nice 40%. Granted, it doesn't block magic, but of course, a lot of bosses are just physical or mostly physical, so this is going to be very useful. And then we have Mirage, which is a 3x multiplier, which is pretty good. It's very good for an AoE especially, but it also does 8 hits. So if you have 2 of these Trust Master rewards and you put them on 2 different characters that maybe normally otherwise wouldn't be able to chain together, you can get a good chain going here. I'm not quite as excited for this as other people may be. The multiplier is not amazing or anything, but it's a way to get free chaining for any party composition pretty much. I'm really excited about this damage mitigation here. But anyway, back to the unit. So he is a support and a debuff, and he actually has some really good skills. HP is pretty good. Attack is, average, I would say. Everything else is just kind of like whatever. His weapon selection is pretty good. Again, we have like the basics, or like the most important ones, which are sword, great sword, and katana. And I say those are the most important because those have like those readily accessible 50% boosts that are attached to using those weapons. Okay, so he can do some status elements. I'm not really interested in that. Blind, Confused, and Disease probably aren't going to be for most boss fights. He does have a nice debuff here. 50% Magic and Spirit for 3 turns to 1 enemy. This is really nice. This is like the original Elza, what, you know, basically doubles your damage if you are able to do that on any enemy. And on top of that, he has the other side of it, attack and defense, which is 50% decrease for 3 turns to 1 enemy. I'm sorry, this is Magic and Spirit, so if you're going to use spells on the enemy, it will do double damage. Or if the boss does a lot of magic attacks, you're going to, you know, basically mitigate a lot of that. And then if it's if you're going to be doing mostly physical damage, like a lot of party compositions, then you're going to want to use this one, which will effectively double your damage by having their defense. Really great debuffs to have. Attack HP heal. This is basically just like a nice way to top off his HP in a pinch, but not something you're going to rely on too much. Paralyze and stop. Not too interested in this one either, although if you happen to use this guy as an arena unit, the stop can actually be pretty useful or handy sometimes because there's a lot of like full evasion noctises and so forth nowadays. So yeah, if you can stop that full evasion character, then you can go ahead and take him out really easily. Another great set of skills here, he has Element Purge, which basically debuffs the resistance to fire, lightning, and wind here for 50%. This is really great. Or Ice, Water, and Earth, again, really great, 50%. And again, Tidus owners who don't want to wait for the limit burst to fill up, this is a really great way to, you know, debuff the enemy right off the bat. Self-Destruct, I actually think this is a cool skill that I'm going to use probably a decent amount. It has a crazy high multiplier, almost 10x. It does take off 99% of his HP, but if you envision a scenario where, you know, let's say his HP happens to be topped off, your tank, you know, tanked all the hits the previous round, he can use this first, do massive damage to all the enemies, and then you just have somebody like Tillith or even your Sola or whatever, you know, just full heal him. He's going to be back up and running, and he's done a lot of damage, you know, because of that. Spread Shield, again, a great damage mitigation ability, 30% instead of 20%. This is probably a go-to skill for tough fights here. And again, if you're facing a physical boss, then you'd want to use the physical mitigation that comes from the TMR instead. But overall, 30% is awesome. And he has some nice passives, critical rate. He can counter 30% of physical attacks with a normal attack, which is a nice counter rate. But then on top of that, he has a 20% chance to counter with something called counter attack, which is actually a very good attack for a counter. 1.8 with a defense ignore of 50%. So this is like a 3.6 multiplier counter attack. 20% chance to do that. So that's a really nice counter. Another way to get more damage out of this guy. He has some evasion, HP. His attack passes are actually kind of low. He only has 30% essentially. But you know, if you consider that he's mostly a support and he's not there to like do massive damage, and he's basically relying on counters for damage and stuff, it's not a big deal. Like he's mostly here for like debuffs and stuff like that, so, and mitigation. So nice to have, but not necessary. So really useful skills. Hacking, this is another great debuff. 8.65 physical damage, which is a really nice multiplier. I don't know how damaging that's going to be in practical application because again, he doesn't have a ton of attack, but it does also have a nice, you know, whopping full break type of thing at 54%, and it inflicts disease, which is a little nice bonus. It's like 10% stats or whatever, but really nice limit burst that just increases his utility even more. So I'm really excited about 9S, but I am worried that this banner is so diluted. It has 3 4-stars, including the global exclusive, that I don't have high hopes for getting them, but I really hope I do. And I'm not as interested as other people as for getting 2 of the Pod 153 Trustmaster rewards, because again, I don't really see myself using that chaining ability that much. But having 1 of them for that physical damage mitigation skill would be great. Really hoping to pull one. Hope my luck goes better on this banner than it did previously. Alright, so the next unit is going to be Adam, another 4-star that goes to 6-star. I pulled this up from the Reddit actually because the wiki didn't have him or didn't have the full details. It had a lot of question marks and stuff like that. So his HP is really good, 3622. His attack is pretty okay. Defense is okay. Not the greatest stats in the world. His equipment selection is actually very limited. Thrown weapons and claws. So as far as passives, the only real passive that you're going to be able to make use of, like best in slot type of passive anyway, is going to be the Agayan trial. You know, I forgot what it's called, but it's basically a fist mastery. That would work really well on him. But as far as a throwing weapon, you're kind of like out of luck for now. So his limit burst is a really nice single target high multiplier attack, and he also gives himself a nice attack buff, so that's a pretty cool limit burst. It's nice to see that limit bursts are actually becoming more and more useful. There's too many characters, old characters, that had limit bursts that you would never really want to use because they were inferior to their actual skills, but this is a really nice limit burst to have. So as far as abilities, okay, here we go. So he has a 50% chance to counter, which is a really nice chance considering like his decent attack and everything. He can fill up his limit burst gauge fill rate, basically double speed, which is again good because his limit burst is good. He has damage mitigation to himself. He has a lot of self buff type stuff, which is honestly not going to be using too much. Oh yeah, this is actually an active skill. I didn't see this before. It's not a passive, so I'm not too crazy about that. I would maybe use this damage mitigation only if he was like in a vulnerable state, but I can't really envision a scenario like that. Okay, so he has again self 3 turns evade attacks when his HP drops below a certain threshold, when it goes below half. So that's nice because you don't have to actually activate it. Confuse resist, okay, that's nice, kind of limited. Again, when his HP goes down below 30%, he buffs himself up. Adam has a lot of these like, you know, threshold type of things, including his TMR. And Eve, the global exclusive unit, is actually somewhat similar. Her TMR is like, I think I saw on Reddit, it's like 20% MP and boosts your defense or whatever when you drop below a certain amount of HP. For a Trustmaster reward, that's very mediocre for me. Oh, and the other global exclusive unit's TMR is basically a really nice greatsword, 125 attack, 20% defense, I believe, and also gives you access to a nice AoE ability. So that's going to be a really good greatsword to have. I believe if it's non-elemental, it'll be the best non-elemental sword, greatsword in the game. Up till now, it's been Agrius's Save the Queen, but yeah. So anyway, back to Adam here. Bullet Wave, he has a nice AoE attack. It is delayed 1 turn. So, you know, a 500% multiplier is normally amazing, but you do have to wait 1 turn, so there's a cost to that. It is a nice, I don't know if this is chainable. I mean, it's only 4 hits, but they're giving frame data here, so maybe you can chain that. And then it also gives himself a little bit of damage mitigation. He has Machine Killer, so that's going to make him more effective against a Gaian, for instance. Although I don't really know how effective he's going to be in that fight. Again, a self buff, a crazy buff, 150% if he drops below 5%. Not really, that's really limiting, so I think that's going to be pretty rare. And then he has another AoE attack, but it's also comes with a nice defensive debuff here. And if you use this certain ability the last turn, he's going to buff it up to a really nice multiplier. I don't know what this ability is, but it might be one of these other ones that I talked about that don't seem worth the wasted turn. But if you can do that coupled with this, it would be really nice. So he's kind of a weird character for me. He has some decent attacks and everything, but I don't really see me using him. So he is what he is, but not terribly excited about this guy. Here's his Trustmaster reward actually. 20% HP materia, 3 turns, 110% attack buff when below 30% HP. So I would think of this more as an HP materia, and then the attack buff is like situational. I mean, this would be really nice if tanks did more damage. Like a tank is going to go below 30% HP pretty frequently, and you can kind of control that because he's going to be covering and all that stuff. But they don't really do attacks, so it's not like all that useful. But there's going to be times when that does come in handy. It's just not something that I'd farm for or go for. And then finally, we have the Jackpot To Be. This is kind of like the unit that everybody was kind of hoping to have for the Agaion trial. And, because it's a trial, it's always around. Now you have To Be to help you out with that if you haven't beaten it already. She has really high attack, 155, good HP here. Let me see if her Trustmaster reward is up. I believe it's a katana. Yeah, it's a katana, so 130 attack, MP plus 20%. So yeah, this takes the cake. This is the best katana in the game right now. Very nice to have. So her attacks and her style is very unique in this game. Again, she can equip like the big types of weapons, sword, greatsword, katana. We also have that, axe mastery kind of thing now with the Veritas banner that just hit us. So she can wear that. She can put on a fist with the Agaion materia. So lots of damaging options that she can equip here. Okay, so her basic premise is that she can charge up or use some kind of ability first, and then her follow-up attacks will be super strong. At least that's the way that I understand that she's used. So, like for instance, this blade attack, she can do a nice AoE attack. Excuse me, but if she uses it after pod charge, which is just an auto revive, a pretty crappy one actually, but the fact that I would only use this, obviously, to charge up these kinds of attacks. If you use it after pod charge, you get a 7.5 to all enemies, which is an insane AoE. And even if you consider that you wasted the turn before, well, it's not even completely a waste because auto revive is kind of handy anyway. Even split across 2 turns is still a really high multiplier for an AoE, 3.75 per turn. So awesome attack here. I don't like this ability at all. 50% of the time you're gonna kill yourself. I guess if you had used pod charge before, it wouldn't be a big deal because she'd come right back, but she would only come back with 20% HP, and there's no bonus for using pod charge before this anyway, so this skill seems really useless to me. Decent AoE here with Inflict Paralyze, but again, I mean, how many times is that going to be handy for an actual tough fight? Another decent AoE attack, but again, if you're going for AoE damage, why not just use the blade ability here? And then Inflict Poison to all enemies, almost useless. So this is the worst ability that I would never use. Spear, this is basically the blade, a single target version of blade. And it also does extra damage against mechanical monsters, or gives her extra damage. Again, this is going to be awesome for a Agaion. And like Blade, if you use it after pod charge, it goes from a 2.75 to a 5.5. Now, it does have multiple hits, 6 hits, so I don't know if this is the better chaining ability or if it's speed attack, which I'll get to later. Sounds like quick hit, by the way. But yeah, I'd be interested to kind of compare which ones are the better options. But it seems like against a mechanical monster, in that very niche scenario, this would be the better ability to use. Volt, great way to decrease lightning resistance, especially if you have like a Knight Alita or Olive. This is going to be a nice, handy way to kind of like, with Olive you would have to debuff the lightning resistance on a separate turn from her main big hitting attack, so this is a nice way to kind of save her a turn. Again, if you use it after pod charge, you're going to get more damage out of it, but you're going to get a better debuff as well. And it also adds Thunder Element to herself for 6 turns. So these 6 turn buffs are like a first. I've never seen one that long before. And the debuff as well, so that's really great. Situationally, if you're fighting with lightning-based characters, or a boss that's weak against lightning and so forth. Auto revive, we already talked about this. This is mainly used to charge up the other abilities. Speed attack is kind of like, it sounds like a quick hit to me. It's a lot of hits, 10 hits, 4x, just like quick hit is. But if you use it after avoid attack, it goes up to a 6x. So what avoid attack does down here is it negates 2 physical damage hits, I guess, taken for 3 turns, which is already, you know, pretty nice situationally. But it also gives you a chance to counter physical attacks by 20%, and it gives you access to avoid attack, which down here is a crazy ability. 9 hits. It's a lot of MP, but I'm sorry, not 9 hits. It's a 9x multiplier with 8 hits. Crazy damage here. So I guess if you what is this? 16 MP. If you activate avoid, then you get access to avoid attack. So you do avoid, then you do this nice attack, avoid attack, and then after that you can go back to speed attack, and so you do less damage than avoid attack, but it's a nice little chain she has going here: avoid attack, and then speed attack. So that's how I interpret it. Pretty nice. And then she also has the self-destruct ability that 9S had. Same deal here, except she's going to be doing a lot more damage probably. I think that would be pretty useful, but I think in general you're going to be using the avoid attack, speed attack chain, I think, unless you need these other debuffs and stuff like that. So she also has counter, which is a really nice, again, multiplier 5.5, and the way that you get counter activated is by avoid as well. It doesn't say that here, but yeah, I guess if you use avoid, you would also get access to this. So you would want to use this, I guess, if you're running low on MP, and it seems like it's a finisher hit. So that's kind of interesting. A lot of her strategy revolves around activating avoid first, I guess. And then her limit burst is a really nice physical damage AoE. So maxed out, it's going to effectively be a 10.9 multiplier to all enemies, which is like crazy AoE. So yeah, she's really capable of doing a ton of damage if you kind of like chain her abilities right. Passive wise, she has really good passives: 30% attack here, 50% here. So that's 80% attack buff. She also has a 40% HP buff, passive, which is I think this might be a first, because normally we're seeing like 30% even on tanks. And then she also, of course, has the innate machine killer. So this is gonna again be like the perfect unit for a Guion. And before I forget to mention this very important thing as well, because a lot of people still struggle with dual wield, she has a native dual wield, which is like the first unit in a long time that have that. Since like Lightning, Lunith, there were people who had like innate dual fist or dual specific weapons, but to have an innate dual wield that can allow for pretty much any weapon is really great. I would like that just because it could save a TM for like my arena team or whatever. So that's really nice. She also has a chance to evade. She can evade physical by 20% and magic by 10%, so that's kind of nice and rare too. And she has kind of like a Fravia type of survivability skill. If her HP is above 10% at the time that she gets hit, then she has an 80% chance to not die, basically. Which is very useful. Again, in the Guion trial, it's like she's made perfectly for that trial. Some auto regen stuff, and yeah, some really great passives here. So all in all, she's a very good unit, very elite stuff, especially when it comes up against machines. She's like second to none. Nobody can even touch her. So I would be thrilled to have her, but realistic expectations, I'm really just hoping for 9S off this banner. But yeah, really tasty banner. As you guys probably know, it's limited, so these are not going to be in the summon pool after this banner is gone. So definitely pull as much as you can afford. Of course, the dirty trick was that they gave us the Veritas banner just before this one, knowing that everyone was going to want those units as well. So for myself and many others, probably a little bit short on tickets and Lapis right now, but do the best you can and hope for the best. I may or may not buy some more tickets or whatever, some more Lapis. I may or may not, depending on how the polls go. So anyway, that was my quick review. I admit that these units are a little bit newer to me than some of the other ones, like that I've known were coming for a long time from the JP version, but I tried to read it and interpret it the best I could. If I made any mistakes, which is very, very possible, leave it in the comments and I'll try to pin it or correct it in the description, which I often do as well. So anyway, good luck on this banner, guys, and see you guys next time.